She stated that Angie Stone asked the driver that was driving aggressively to stop. Even Sharita stated she asked the driver to stop driving aggressively. He did not stop.
If that sniper at the top and he got at a certain particular spot where there's no cameras, so they can do what they gotta do, she is planning to sue the people that hired that driver.
Now, what if I told you that Angie Stone's death wasn't an accident? People have been side-eyeing this whole situation from the jump, and now her own bandmate is confirming what many have been whispering about. The driver wasn't just reckless, he was the hitman. And no coincidence that Angie was the only one who didn't make it. No wonder witnesses are coming forward saying that she begged the driver to slow down. On top of all that, there's a woman claiming she pulled Angie to safety, only for an 18-wheeler to tragically come out of the nowhere and finish the job. Now this is sounding very orchestrated, y'all, and the way the receipts are rolling in, this might be one of the most disturbing and calculated setups that we've seen in the industry. I want Angie to rest in peace, but there might need to be some justice for Angie, so let's break it all the way down, because the deeper we go, the more things start adding up and start making too much sense. Y'all, it's been weeks of grief and confusion and unanswered questions since the tragic crash that took the life of Angie Stone. But now one of the survivors, Sharita Murphy, is coming forward, and what she's saying is not just heartbreaking, it's downright sinister. Y'all, Sharita was right there in the same Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van when it crashed at 4:25 a.m. on March 1st. That van flipped 3 times before getting hit by a Freightliner truck. And the way that Sharita and the other passengers are talking now, they don't just think it was an accident, they believe someone set them up. And the main suspect is the driver, at least according to them. The very person who was supposed to get them into safety may have been paid to make sure that Angie didn't make it out alive. According to Sharita, things got so intense before the crash even happened. The driver was speeding like a maniac and everybody in the van noticed, including Angie herself. But let's pause right there. If multiple people, including Angie, were begging this man to slow down, why did he keep speeding? And why was he in such a rush at 4 in the morning? Well, Angie asked him that exact question. He said he just wanted to get to Baltimore fast. That's it. No concern, no hesitation.
Stop. His words was he was trying to get to Baltimore fast. He didn't even care about who was in that vehicle with him. He didn't care about who was on the road with him. His thinking was just for himself.
But what really seals it is the fact that Angie wasn't the only one who called it out. Sharita told him multiple times that he needed to stop, but he ignored her too. And now with Angie gone, she wants this driver charged, and she's not alone. Other survivors are suing too.
Sharita words is she want criminally, the driver to be charged criminally, as he should.
But let's talk about the elephant in the room, because the way this crash happened, it's looking like more than just a reckless driver. First off, we already know Angie had industry beef. She wasn't afraid to call people out, and she had enemies, and that's what makes this feel like even more of a hit. But more on that later. But let's talk about the driver / alleged hitman. Who's he and what's his connection to all this? Well, the driver behind the wheel that night has been identified as Lethal Carter, an employee of Executive Elite Transportation LLC, a company based out of Atlanta, Georgia. But y'all, here's where things get real suspicious. See, Lethal Carter is no innocent chauffeur. This man has a serious track record. And I'm not just talking about a couple of minor traffic violations. I'm talking about a full rap sheet that should have made it impossible for him to even get behind the wheel, let alone transport A-list passengers. His history includes speeding violations, a parole violation in 2002, forgery, and a felony charge in 2001, driving with a suspended license in 2000, possession charges in 1998, theft by deception in 1993, and multiple theft and forgery charges in 1991 and 1990. Like y'all, this man was not supposed to be anywhere near a luxury transport van with celebrity passengers inside of it, and that's exactly why people are looking at the situation sideways, because if he wasn't even legally supposed to be driving, then who put him in front of the wheel? The streets are whispering, and the theory is that he was planted there on purpose. And if his criminal history wasn't enough to raise alarms, let's talk about his behavior that night. According to survivors, Lethal Carter was yelling at Angie Stone. When she was pleading for her life, asking him to slow down, he yelled at her to shut up. So why would a professional driver even yell at his celebrity client? Something about this isn't sitting right. Because Because what professional driver gets mad at a passenger for wanting to be safe, unless, of course, his goal wasn't to get them there safely? And if you think that's crazy, hold on, because the next part is even worse, as some people believe that there was a literal sniper involved. There were whispers that say a gunman was waiting on Highway 65, tracking the van's location, and waiting for them to hit a certain spot with no cameras to take Angie out.
Hell up, he gonna get your ass to Baltimore like you need to. Chill, mother. You know what I'm saying? That is stressful. That is stressful. He was just trying to get him to shut up so he can do his job. And people are saying, and I believe too, they had a sniper up there on that highway on I-65 that knew exactly where to hit that van. Did something. They said they heard some pop, loud pops before the van flipped. If he would have went slow or normal, that van wouldn't have did all that shit, you know what I mean?
Here's where it gets real sketchy. Multiple witnesses claim they heard loud pops right before the van flipped. Now, if the van just flipped over due to reckless driving, then why were there like sounds heard before it happened? Even people online are not buying the official story anymore. Some are saying things like, the driver was the hitman. He knew the area to drive in as well. At this point, it's starting to make too much sense, but let's back it up a little bit, because Sharita Murphy also dropped another bombshell that's got people raising eyebrows. She revealed that Angie Stone herself felt targeted in the weeks leading up to her passing, not just in a vague, paranoid way. Angie was telling people straight up that something wasn't right. According to Sharita, Angie confided in her daughter Diamond that some of the people around her weren't really for her, and if that wasn't enough to make your skin crawl, Diamond has gone on record saying her mother felt unsafe and watched. Then on the day of everything happening, Diamond Stone, who goes by Lady Diamond on Facebook, dropped the news in the most gut-wrenching way possible. No long explanation, no details, just 5 words. My mommy is gone. And then a flood of crying emojis. Not long after that, Diamond and her brother Michael Archer released a joint statement saying, "Never in a million years did we ever expect to get this horrible news. We are still trying to process and are completely heartbroken." And of course, even Jaguar Wright seems to think Angie's death wasn't just a tragic accident. And if you really look at what she's been saying, you might not be the only one, because Jaguar has spoken for years about how artists mysteriously pass away right when they're about to take control of their careers. And the way she lays it out, it's giving a pattern.
Look at Angie Stone.
Talk about what happened with Angie Stone.
I've known Angie since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the last show we did together. Me, her, and Lettucey at the Showboat Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. It was in the winter. It snowed. They were talking about canceling it. But Angie said, nope, there are people who are coming and we are going to be here. Jag, will you be here?
Let's not forget Jaguar Wright called out the strange circumstances around Whitney Houston's death, and the folks talked about her crazy. But then details started coming out about how Whitney was allegedly trying to break free from the industry control before she passed.
And then the next thing you know, she's dead. Ray J was the last person to see her alive. He let the dealer in, but she was sober, right?
And what about Michael Jackson? Jaguar Wright warned MJ was fighting against the very people who profited from his downfall, and we all saw how that ended. So now that Jaguar is side-eyeing Angie Stone's passing, the real question is it really that far-fetched? And that wasn't even the craziest part in all this, because after the accident, a woman came forward with a story that will make your jaw drop. This woman, who isn't still being fully identified, claims she pulled Angie Stone from the wreckage and moved her to the side of the road. And just when you think it couldn't get any more chilling, she says an 18-wheeler came out of nowhere, brushing past her, and then struck Angie, finishing the job. Now let's really think about this. As tragic as it is, you're telling me that Angie survived the initial crash only to be left vulnerable on the side of the street where a massive truck conveniently came through and took her out? And the woman who supposedly helped her, she was brushed by the same truck, but she never went to the hospital? Instead of reporting what happened, she just left the scene of the crime, left a dead body on the freeway or grass and kept it pushing like nothing happened? Yes, it's all very suspicious. And get this, she posted a video about it, then took it down. So why would she do that? Did she realize, or that she said too much, or did somebody get in her ear, or did she lawyer up, sign an NDA, and then delete it? Because listen, something about her also isn't right.
They were helping this woman out off the side of the van, and I grabbed her hand and I helped her get down, and she seemed out of it and was holding her hand and she was wobbling around, and I said, baby, you gotta sit down. And then the next thing I know, I flew and I fell down to the ground, and I looked up and there was an 18-wheeler that had crossed the median into the oncoming traffic, and I knew that's what hit me and ran over and brushed over me was the 18-wheeler.
Then there's the fact that the Freightliner truck that slammed into that overturned van wasn't just any random truck. It was allegedly driven by Jared Wilson, a 33-year-old driver for CRST. And if you don't know, CRST already has a history of negligence. Sharita's source is questioning why Jared was speeding at that hour. I mean, it was 4:30 in the morning, so what was the rush? And let's not forget about these intense skid marks on the scene. This suggests that Jared was distracted, maybe even asleep at the wheel, before he realized what was happening.
ST, Jared Wilkinson, 33, of Skidmore, Texas. When we did research on him, we did find him. Boom, y'all see that? But he don't live in Texas. He live in a whole nother state.
But here's the part that's got people really side-eyeing this whole situation. Some are straight up speculating that Jared and Lethal are connected, that maybe this wasn't just a freak accident, but that these two were working together. And if that's the case, then we're talking about something way bigger than just reckless driving. But get this, both Lethal and Jared have gone completely silent. No statements, no explanations, nothing. It's like they're trying to disappear. Now I know what you're thinking. Who would want to harm Angie Stone, and how long have they been planning it? Well, there's a reoccurring rumor going around that even from the inside, yes, from behind bars, Diddy somehow found a way to get to Angie. And before y'all start saying, now hold up, how does Diddy get in this? Just hear me out for a second, because that van driver, Sharita, mentioned something really strange about him. Apparently he was into the same freaky lifestyle that Diddy is allegedly known for. And not only that, but he even tried to get down with her. Y'all know what I mean.
And then they say Sharita on another call with Stone was talking about the driver and her doing freak offs. Yeah, they are on some Diddy.
That's not even the real tea. See, Angie had enemies in the industry and she wasn't afraid to say it. She was openly talking about her royalties being stolen. She was out here calling out Universal, saying they took everything from her. And that wasn't even the only thing looking suspect, because why was her kidney transplant delayed for 5 years? Like, how does that even happen? She was on the waiting list, needing the transplant to survive, and for some reason, it just kept getting pushed back. So now people are wondering if they had to find other ways to take Angie out, since natural causes were just not doing it. Now, because while Angie had beef with multiple people in the industry, she always said that Diddy had never spoken to her, not once. But then out of the nowhere, one day Diddy approaches her and asks her to pray with him. Now tell me why Diddy, the same Diddy that built his whole persona around partying, power, and control, suddenly needed a prayer session from Angie. According to reports, Diddy was getting threats, and whatever was going on behind the scenes, he was scared for his life. And that's when he came to Angie. She said he saw the God in her, that he was crying out for help, basically letting her know that underneath all the fame, he was still a real soul who feared God. And now people are wondering, what exactly did Diddy tell Angie during that emotional moment? Because if he admitted something to her that could come back to bite him in court, especially with the up-and-coming trial, that could be a major problem. And y'all already know Diddy has said over and over again how much Clive mentored him and how Clive helped shape his career. So if Andy was out here holding on to secrets that could get Diddy cooked in court, then not just one but two powerful men had a reason to keep her quiet. Another thing that's been raising eyebrows is the fact that Angie had been telling people that Universal pretty much took everything from her. Plus, the timing of all of it, too crazy to ignore.
And Puffy came to me, first time, speaking to me as a decent human being. And he said, hey, Miss Stone. I said, yeah, what's up? He said, how are you? I said, I'm fine. I'm shocked you speaking to me. He said, Miss Stone, would you please pray with me about that party They were singling him out, and I don't think that he thought he was going to survive it. This day, he saw the God in me.
So I have to ask you, what was your favorite memory working with Diddy?
You know, personally, I've got to tell you, he really is a major star in this film tonight. He's his spokesman all the way through. I met him before I ever knew of him. I met him when he was 21 years old.
Because she started making these claims right around the time she was battling a severe blood infection. And this infection forced her to take a break from performing, and while she was recovering, she started looking deeper into her financial records. And that's when she allegedly found all these irregularities that pointed to a possible mismanagement of her earnings.
That nature, only to find out a lot of my publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen.
But let's be real for a millisecond. If there's one thing we know about this industry, they do not like when artists ask too many questions about their money. And looking at everything that went down, from Angie Stone's own bandmate raising suspicions to her daughter's gut-wrenching claims to even other people in the industry speaking up, her passing is starting to look a lot less like a tragic accident and more like a targeted hit. Think about it. A driver with a criminal record, a mysterious woman at the scene, a trucking company with a history of negligence, and Angie Stone herself speaking out about missing royalties and industry secrets. At this point, can we really ignore all these coincidences? But y'all gotta let me know what you think. Did Angie Stone know something that made her be a threat to powerful people? Was this just another case of industry greed silencing an artist before they could expose the truth? And most importantly, who really benefited from Angie Stone not being here anymore? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because this story is far from over. And if you don't want to miss any new developments, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you're always tapped in, because trust me, the rabbit hole goes deeper than we think.